Okay. 1 year ago, I stood up here and I told you that I really didn't want to be here, that I had nothing new to say. Not because there wasn't anything to say, but because there was too much, and I, just like many of you, was tired of being angry. None of that has changed, and yet here I am again. Not because I want to, but because I feel I have to. I remember a time after the 2017 elections when Daphne took a break from writing. It was in July, and she didn't write anything for a month. I remember thinking at the time, damn it, she's had enough. She's not going to write anymore. I actually didn't remember the dates when the gap happened, just that it did. But as usual, I went to running commentary, and I searched, and I found the gap. I go to running commentary regularly, either to see what Daphne had written about the people who are in the news today, or to find writings of hers that I can use as quotes, or just to read her words. So back to that break. I understand that Daphne was thinking of stopping. I could be wrong, but that's the impression I have. But then she came back. So now I can't help thinking, what if she hadn't come back? What if she had stopped? Would she still be here today? And it breaks my heart to think of that. But she couldn't stop. She just couldn't. She had a job to do, and nothing could stop her from doing it, except one thing. As she herself said, they would gladly see me dead, which appears to be the only way that I will shut up. Daphne is an inspiration to us all. She is the reason that we're here, the reason why I stand up here and talk when I'd much rather be at home. Her murder woke us up, and now civil society is fighting back. So today, instead of talking about the scandals, the impunity, the hnizriet, and the crooks, I thought I'd talk about the people who inspire me. Shocking, isn't it? I'm not usually the most positive person, but sometimes, in the darkest times, we need to remember the inspirational behavior of those who have taken up the cause for justice. First of all, Clemence and Pia, whose rage and anguish at the death of a journalist led them to organize the camp outside Castile, which then led to the formation of #OccupyJustice. All my fellow angry women in Occupy Justice who are still here and still fighting for the whole truth to be exposed. Our colleagues in Repubblica, particularly the amazing Robert Aquilina, who, despite all odds, the attacks against him, the obstacles in his way, remains focused and determined in his quest to make sure that we get there, senaslu. With the help and constant backup of Vice President Alessandra and the rest of the Repubblica Committee. Movement Graffiti, who are unrelenting in their battle against environmental havoc and wrongdoing generally. Isabel Bonnici, who, despite having to deal with the worst thing that can happen to a mother, the loss of her son, Jean-Paul Sophia, refuses to mourn quietly, but is fighting for justice, not only for her son, but for all victims of horrific accidents. Victims like Miriam Parch, whose family have been so dignified despite the shocking injustice they have suffered. All those fighting to free the El Hiblu 3, including and especially Arditus, whose work is so essential in this country where it seems that unless you have money, you're not worth anything. Journalists like Jacob Borge, whose dogged determination to investigate and report on wrongdoing is constant, I think Daphne would have approved. Caroline Muscat and the Shift News, who continue to uncover scandal after scandal, despite the obstacles and the attacks on them. Manuel Delia, whose blog is our go-to place for revelations, explanations, and clarifications of whatever is going on in this country. And John Malia, who, unlike our public service media, chose to give space to people like Robert, Manuel, André Callus, etc., instead of censoring them. And Donald Cassola, who takes every initiative available to him in the face of injustice. And all those lawyers who choose to assist victims of corruption and greed, most of the time without any financial compensation, just to continue fighting the good fight. And finally, the Velja family. Daphne's parents, heroic and dignified in the face of unbearable grief and harassment. Daphne's sons doing her proud in so many ways. Her husband, her beautiful sisters and nieces, and the Daphne Caruana Galizia Foundation, carrying on her work and fighting for justice for Daphne and for all. It all goes back to Daphne. I wish we could have been out here fighting the good fight while she was still alive. Maybe the murderers would have thought twice about killing her if they saw crowds on the streets supporting what she was doing. We weren't here then, but we are here now. As Daphne herself said, we have a duty and an obligation to root out the corrupt and the scandalous and work together to remove the danger. And that is exactly what we're doing. She is our inspiration. And all of you here, continuing the fight, even though more than 5 years have gone by, you are mine. Thank you all for being here. And thank you, Daphne, for making us what we are today.